Hello, hi, Aunt Green.
Okay.
And Colleen's here. Good morning, Miss Corine.
Good morning. It's so good to hear your voice. I see you on Facebook every once in a while, and I think I got your boyfriend. So
Oh,
look out.
what? Well,
Anyway,
we'll have to talk. We'll have to talk when we're not recording about that one. But
well,
you
that's
know,
true.
I will definitely talk to you about that one. It's good to hear your voice, and I love how you said
Oh, I
you saw me
forgot
on
we're being
Facebook.
recorded. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Oh,
love
I'm
how you
so
said you saw
sorry.
me on
I missed
Facebook because
that.
I hate to see me on Facebook. Every time someone shares those videos, I freak out.
Mm-mm. You're good. So, all right. So, I'm ready whenever y'all are.
Great. Sorry, I was trying to avoid my computer dying and it just crashed. But did y'all already introduce who's on the call? Okay, cool. So we just wanted to, since you can't see us, we wanted to just give a little introduction for who's joining the call today, because we have a little bit bigger group than usual. So I don't know if everyone wants to just hop on really quick and just say who's here and maybe where you are today, so we can kind of get a sense of where everyone's at. This is Alana and I'm in Vermont.
Oh,
This is Rochelle and I'm in Atlanta.
This is Haley and I'm in DC.
okay.
Bon matin. It's Ida. I'm at home.
Oh, listen to that girl with her French over here. That's nice. Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hey, it's Brittany. I'm here in Texas. I'm back again for this one.
Oh, good.
And like I said, this is Colleen. I'm down in the parish of St. Bernard.
Yes, indeed. Got back closer in. Okay.
All right, and that's everybody.
All right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
so I think when we spoke the other day and Rochelle shared with you the questions, the kind of theme we wanted to talk about today was early childhood and growing up in Dulac, and just your memories of early childhood. So in thinking about that, our first question was, what's your first memory that comes to mind, your first memory of childhood growing up in Dulac?
In Dulac, I remember the first house where I started, I guess, with memory. It was my dad took care of somebody's property, and we got to live in an old overseer's, used to be an overseer's house. And it's like I can close my eyes and just see this house. And it was bigger than most homes in the community. And so it had a long porch, and it had one of the rooms was round, like on the edge of the house. You've probably seen this before. And I recall we had animals to take care of, like cows and one little horse and a few other things, chickens and stuff. We had that around the house that we had to help take care of, my brothers and my dad worked the fields. And I remembered that being so happy there. Everything was just as a child, and I remember that there was a little calf born, and my mom and dad and brothers, they all listened to this country music, and it was this country music that you don't hear it today too much, but anyway, it was Hank Williams, those old song of the Hank Williams Sr. And in one of the songs there, it was called Jack of Diamonds. Well, I kept hearing that song over and over in the radio. So when Dad told me that I could name the little calf, this new calf, I said, "Oh boy, I want to call it Jacko Diamond." I thought they were saying Jacko Diamond, but it was Jack of Diamond, the grown-up song, you know. And I remember I was so happy and excited. I don't remember too much else. I remembered that I went to a school from there for maybe, I don't know, maybe a week or so. There was a Catholic, the Catholic had a building there that they had started educating us, some of our people, all just us Indians, behind the church. And I remember I was sent there, but I don't know how I got there. They would have taken me by boat, I'm thinking, or because it was across the bayou. So I remember, but as soon as I was settled into school, after a week or so, they took me out because we were moving. And even as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, I couldn't understand why we would be moving when we had such a nice house and plenty of room and stuff like that. Even as a child, I would think that and I thought that as soon as I saw the other house we were going to come to live in Dulac. And so we moved, but we moved by a boat, a shrimp boat. They put all the furniture on the boat. And I remember even the chickens were boxed up and put on the boat. And we scooted down the bayou. And when we got there and I saw this little 3-bedroom house, that was it. That was what we were moving in. And like I said, just my child sense was telling me, why would we leave a big old house and come to this little bitty house? But I couldn't talk to the grown-ups about it. I mean, you didn't in those days. You just accepted things, your parents did. And so anyway, we settled in and everything, and it all worked out for us in the community. Everybody was because I think it was on that peninsula where the Dulac Community Center is, and we call it the Point. And at the time, there were only about 3 houses, 3 families living on that point. And so we all got to know each other and took care of each other. And it was, as far as the people, it was good with our people there. But, and then that's when I started the mission school at Wilhelmina Hooper's house. She would have school for the Indian children in her house, in her home. And so that's where I began. And then, from there, it went on to, they made a school building where the community center is, closer to the highway. And I went to grade school there, pretty much. I started with Miss Hooper 1st grade and went to about the 3rd, 4th grade, maybe 5th grade. And then I went to the, we call it Dulac Indian Mission that they built before Dulac Community Center. And then after, when I was about the 6th grade, maybe, the mission was going to close as a school, and they had the people, the directors there, the community center, had been going to the school board meetings all the time to get them to try to get us in a regular schoolhouse, and it was hard to get them to want to do that, but they finally decided to build that Dulac Indian School, which was across the street from, say, the Dulac Community Center. And then we closed the mission as a school, and we went across the street. Some people went right away at the beginning of the season, but I don't know why, but I was late moving into the the actual parish school there. And so, but anyway, that's where I went to grade school. This I miss Wilhelmina's Hooper's house first, and then the Dulac Indian Mission, and then Dulac Indian Elementary. So the parish finally came along and had for us.
Miss Corine, you mentioned the move as being one of your first memories. Could you explain a little bit more about why that, so my first question was, what does it mean for, you said it was you were living there, it was the overseer's house. If you could just explain a little bit about what that position was or who that person was, and
Okay.
then why did you have to move?
Okay, that's still a good question there, why we had to move. My dad, he would take care of he worked in the sugar cane, and he took care of just, I don't know, they worked so hard. And my sister was telling me, the older ones were telling me that they used to work so hard in the summertime, and you didn't have any break, and you just had to, from morning to night, and on and on. Finally, I think that my dad, he never was really, didn't like hard working. You know, he was a small man, and the stuff he had to do, and I think he was unhappy with that, from what I gathered, just bits by bit that I got from the family. And he thought if he could go fishing, that would be better. He thought he could go and do crabbing, you know, baskets of people go out there and lay out lines and come up with baskets full of crabs, you know, and sell them, and they think it's good money. You know, back then it was a lot less than it is now, but still, that was something. And I think he thought he could do that. So somehow he got a little boat, a small boat, and then when we moved down there, he did go crabbing, and I remember that you could see the people, the other daddies and the other men that would come in from the lake with their load in the afternoon, crabs just piled up on each other. I mean, baskets of crab piled up on their little boats. It was these open little boats. And my dad would come in, and behind them, and he would hardly have, if he had 3 or 4 baskets, he was doing good. Evidently, he wasn't very good at knowing the trade of fishing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was always behind the others and always had less than the others. So he just kept at it, you know. That was what he did most of the rest of my life that we lived there, you know, from the time we lived there.
Mm-hmm.
And how we, it was tough living. I mean, the food wasn't always there, you know, just a little bit here and there. And my sisters too were married, and they helped, you know, mom with food and stuff like that. But after I got in the public school, my mom had gone to find a job, and she was one of these people that she wasn't scared of anybody, and she would go knocking on doors if she had to, and that's what she did that day. She was looking for a job. She could do housekeeping, and she could do just stuff like that, you know. So she went over to the Dulac Community Center, back then the Indian Mission, and the director and his wife had let her do some work for them for a time, but then they didn't have anything else for her to do. And so sometime later, she went back to them to see if they still had something that she could do. And the director's wife said, no, we don't, but why don't you go across the street at this new school there? And the principal's name is Ms. Dillard, and she may have something she can offer you. So Mom went across the street, and sure enough, she got hired as a janitress. And she was that made her the first Indian woman to be hired in this parish, even though it's a janitress job, by the school board to work in in Terrebonne Parish schools. She was the first Indian person to come into a job, and so she took the job, and of course, when she took that job, myself and my nephew that lived with us had to help keep clean the building every day after school. And on Friday, we had to move all those desks to one side, sweep them, put them back. Then on Friday, added to that was mopping all those big rooms. And I didn't like that my mom got that job.
It was all of your
Anyway.
first jobs.
She worked hard, and I recall that it was good to have mom and to seem cool I was, but at the same time, I did something and kind of got in trouble. And then the teacher went to the principal went to mom. By the time I got home, I had talked to dad, and just, those are the kind of things you put up with when your mom works in the area you're at as a kid. But the other thing was, there was a man there that was he was a janitor, and he was a bus driver. And so he and mom would get into it all the time, and it was always an Indian issue. He would make comments about our people, and mom just wouldn't back down, and she would get so loud. I remember I just thought, ooh, here she goes. And but anyway, those kind of things went on, and she stayed there until after I went away to school. And the community itself, the little house, was just a 3-bedroom, and of course no bathroom or no plumbing of any kind. And I can, like I said, I can still close my eyes and see this little house. And when that movie Cajun Belly's Ad the Cajun, or Cajun Belly, what is it? Belly's Ad the Cajun, I think is the name of it. Y'all know that movie? Well, they speak French. It's a Cajun story,
those are the Cajun, yeah.
And
yeah,
and in that scene, there's a little house in there, and they all speak French. You love to watch it. And they have this little house, and it has how can I say it? They call it in French un banc chaudière. That means the bench where you put the cooking pots outside for you to wash the dishes. It hangs from the window. It's connected to the window, and back then it was not glass; it was shutters. Anyway, we had one of those windows where you open the shutter, and then this shelf. It was like a shelf on the outside of the house, but it was to your window where you could wash the dishes from inside, and put your stuff around. Well, in that movie, they had one, and I'm telling you, it just brought back just memories right away of my time having to do dishes, from that window, open window. The pan was on the shelf there on the outside. It's crazy how your memories play in your head, about things like that. But I can remember a table, an old table somebody had put together. I don't remember having matching kitchen chairs. You were lucky if you had a chair. I think there were 2 chairs, and you could use them anywhere in the house. It was just two chairs. We had it wasn't a wood stove. It was it wasn't a gas stove, but butane, maybe something like that. I don't know. I can't even remember what the stove looked like, but there was a stove and a cabinet, because my sister during the war, my older sister had some money saved. She worked in the shipyards in New Orleans, and she bought my mom a real nice cabinet where it had these different doors on it and all this cabinet space. And then one side you could dump your flour in the top, and then it sifted, from the bottom, and it was really neat. So that was the only nice piece of furniture my mom had in there that, say, a bought thing, And then we had to use kerosene lamp for light. And I remember that we were the last one on the street. I thought we were the last one in Dulag to get electricity because everybody else electricity was coming in, and here we are, we didn't have it, and
How did things
it's,
change once you got electricity?
huh?
How did life change once y'all got electricity?
Well, for us, we never, it helped with the homework, that's for sure. When I had to do homework, it sure helped. And I think it helped in so many ways, except you had those big light bulbs hanging from the ceiling. That's how it used to drop down on a cord, But one of the things as a whole for the community, and the director's wife and I, many years later, was talking about this. When the TV came in at that time, it was just like the computer today. People started learning. Those that were saying they couldn't speak English, they started picking up the English from watching TV every day, and they started getting new ideas about different things, and it was really, I think it was a great thing. It was one of the greatest things that came to the community. We used to go, Mom and Dad would take me and get us in a little boat and go across the bayou to the Parfaits family that had the first TV down on, they call it Old Bridge Road, and where Roy Parfait and Miss Annie lives. And we would sit on the floor, all the children would sit on the floor, and the grown-ups would sit around on the chairs, and we would watch mostly Western, like Roy Rogers, and, and we'd sit there for a couple of hours, and then get up, and it was time to go home to go to bed. And I think that was one of when television started moving in, it seemed like it changed a lot of things in the communities, small communities. Then everybody started having TVs, and it's just like, to me, computer, because a lot of people, I know some that didn't graduate from high school, or they just, but they got a computer, and once they got the hang of what you can do with a computer, they're more educated with that thing than some of us, and I thought that was an interesting thing,
Miss Corine,
and a helpful thing.
I have a
Go
question
ahead.
for you about watching Westerns on TV as a kid. I'm curious to know what you felt when you saw how Indians were portrayed on Westerns, and if there was anything that you learned outside of watching TV, maybe through the adults in your life or through social studies class at school or other things that maybe were in, or your personal experience, that were in conflict with what you saw in those Westerns on TV.
At that time, just about everybody accepted that there would be, there were Indians on TV. They showed Indians and how the Indian was always the enemy, and all this stuff. And we never thought too much about it, really. It was just, we were reminded it's just a movie. And it's not like it really touched our lives. I mean, it just didn't connect like it does today. I think more people are more aware of the real sense of our purpose of being here as a Native American, to that we're just as good, and we can it's disrespect, to, I mean, I just don't recall anybody complaining about it, and because when the kids would play on the school ground or anywhere, the Indian children, some would be white and the other would be the Indian, it was just like a game that, they understood at the time. But, and then afterward, it just started to change. And even when the Mardi Gras Indians, I just don't exactly get excited about them, because I know that the Indian people helped them, and they turn around and honoring our people. They do what they do. They organize themselves to honor this. But what I don't like, it started out with good intentions, but they do some things that is just not something we as Indians would even consider, and they exaggerate their dressing, and we're more, it's not a pretend, and it's not a, what's the word I'm trying to say about their outfits?
Costume?
Yeah, costume. That is a costume instead of regalia, and that's. But as far as a child and watching the Roy Rogers and all the others, I don't ever remember hearing anybody complaining in those years about they killed too many Indians or this, that, and the other. I don't remember hearing that at all.
Did your
You think-
parents ever? Sorry, go ahead, Alana.
I was just going to ask, do you think that it contributed in any way, though, to people having this idea that all Indians look the same, and that there's this, it's like, do you think that people recognized in any way that that was kind of a starting point for a lot of stereotypes, that people dress the same and look the same and live the same?
It could, because it could. And then too, another thing Hollywood did is, after a time, they turned to having, they used to use non-Indians to dress them up supposedly as an Indian, and they kind of fixed that to where they found some actual Indian actors to bring in, or train them to take the place of these people. But the idea came about how they were portraying us and how they were accepting us to look down on us, and we didn't know any better, and this, that, and the other. I think a largest part of that is true. They didn't, they just did not want to hold up to, we never would be as good as they are, they just, and back then you did feel it real, you felt it a lot. If somebody didn't, the white community really looked down on you and, didn't include you in a lot of stuff. So I think it did affect us in a way. And the whole country really, for that matter, started to take notice of what was really, face up to what was happening, and didn't have to back down. And our people, especially our old people, and they would not go though and protest and stand up for themselves, and they kept quiet, and we were always quiet people, and they weren't out there making noise about it.
Well, it sounds like Hollywood had a certain messaging that it was sending folks, but what about the people in your life that were adults when you were growing up? What kind of messages did you get from them about what it was like to be Homa Indian, or what that meant?
all I know is my mom and them used to preach to me that you are who you are, and you are an Indian. And she let us know who our relatives were, and who was Indian in the family and who was not. And she was, just, we knew who we were. I mean, you just grow up knowing who you are. And she would just remind us of who we were, just remember who you are, she'd say when she'd send me off somewhere, another word for my behavior, and especially with white people, if I wanted something and I might have some trouble getting it or something like that. She was trying to tell me to warn me that there might be some people that may not want me to have what it is I go after or whatever, But at the same time, they just didn't make a loud noise about it. They just didn't. They just kind of talked to me. I mean, I was the only child at the time in the home, and she just let me know, that we are who we are, and you have to be proud of who you are. And my behavior is gonna. The way I understood it, my behavior was gonna tell them that I was proud of who I was,
Yeah.
But most of the time they meant to keep quiet and just go about your business and just do it, do what you have to do, and then don't look for trouble and all this,
Both of your parents sound like they were incredible people. Both of them sound very courageous and strong-minded and resilient. What do you think? I'm curious from your perspective as a child, and then as you got older, how would you describe both of your parents in terms of characteristics? What stands out to you if you're talking about both of them? And then also, what do you think, what of those characteristics do you think you got from them?
My mom she was a dutu. Listen to this, Lana. We always said she was smart. If she would have had, I said, when I was little, and she would talk about Hitler, and they would have Hitler's during the war. They would have Hitler on the radio and his speeches and all of this stuff. Well, that was before I come along, I was too young to remember this, but I was told this. She would talk about it all the time, about Hitler this and Hitler that, and he did this and he did that, especially when my brother was in the service. Later on, now as an adult, when I recall all of this stuff she used to tell me about Hitler, and I read Hitler's story, biography one time, I'm telling you, she was so smart that if she would have had any education, I'd no telling where she was going to stop, because she just picked up on that, and she could tell all the news stuff and all. She could just repeat to me what she knew to be good and what was not good, and everything about Hitler. And I said, my gosh, it amazed me that she could do that, and she never went one day to school. And my dad, it wasn't quite that way until my mother spoke pretty good English. She would, like at work where she had to go to work, but she worked in the shrimp plants factory, and she worked in the sugarcane field. So she had to speak English because some African Americans was in the sugarcane field, and they all spoke just English. Then the other little job she had around, they would speak English, and so her English was pretty good. My dad, My dad's was too. He didn't talk very much, but he and my uncle would get together and they'd have conversations and about different things, mostly farming and fishing and stuff like that. And his English was pretty nice, pretty good. And so was my uncle. My uncle, though they lived in an area where it was a lot of farming, sugarcane farming, and for a plantation. And so everybody pretty much spoke English up the bayou, so to speak, between Ashland, they call it, that part of just before you get into the Houma area, coming back from down the bayou. And so Mom, she was pretty smart too about my brother writing letters to her about his time in the service, and she couldn't read the letters anything. She got them read, but she would talk about what was going on. If he said something about, let's say, just Berlin, whatever, she would just go back to the neighbors and tell them all of this thing. Just, and then Dad, he, like I said, he didn't talk very much, and I really don't have too much that I can recall of my dad doing anything exceptional. I know that he was, I thought he was kind, and I thought he was good to me. And they said he used to drink many years, way earlier before I come along. But when I come along, I don't recall him ever drinking. Now, both he and Mom smoked a lot. And everybody, they used, in those days, like in the 50s and earlier, they smoked that stuff out of a pack. I think it was called urban or Irby coffee. Cigarette. Tobacco. And I don't know of any vice other than that they had. I don't know. But he did teach my brothers. I understand my oldest brothers tell stories about my dad teaching them how to hunt to put food on the table, and how poor they were, and they had to go and try to hunt all the time or to get food to put on the table, and I thought, wow. So
How many
and we never
siblings-
owned the house.
How many siblings do you have?
How many what?
How many brothers and
Sib-
sisters?
I have 4 brothers and 5 sisters. I would have had 5 brothers, but one died of kidney malfunction when I was about 2, I think. He was about 17 or 18. And so we would have been 10 living children for a time. And I'm the last one. Everybody, my youngest brother just passed away 3 months ago. And so I'm the last one. And my oldest sister, she was in her 80s when she died. And then next to my oldest sister, the one that died last, was 90 years old. So
when you were little, Miss Corine, what did you think your future would be like? What did you foresee being a profession that you would want to be? What did you think you'd want to be when you grew up? What possibilities did you see for yourself?
Well, I used to think first, especially when Mom was working at the school, the first time I thought I could be something like a teacher or something, that's who I thought I wanted to be. I wanted to be a teacher. And then as time went on, I really didn't know. I didn't think I was prepared to be anything like out there. But at the same time, I did have a tendency to want to be, I thought I was going to music and do the piano stuff, just you know, you, and I never could learn to read music. So the next best thing was the keys on a typewriter. So I decided secretary was the better thing for me. So I spent years working as a secretary here and there, you know, more so than anything. And but I didn't really have a great big dream out there that I would be one particular thing. I don't think. I don't know. I don't recall really, you know, saying that. It's like I think what it is some of our families, we never had that dream because it wasn't there for us to learn how to embrace it. And so whatever was there, we grew to accept it and work with it. You know, whatever's the closest to us at the time. And you made yourself like something, even if you didn't. You know, you stayed with it, you endured. I believe that kind of happened. And so I don't know if some of that drifted down to me, but it's like I just didn't have. And not until after we moved back here from my family, my immediate family, and I noticed, you know, how the community center works to help families. I like that. And the program part of doing something and stuff like that, you know, and see the community grow from what you teach their children, you know. I kind of, that kind of helped me out a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like your work and involvement with the community center really inspired working with youth and younger, kind of the younger generation with different types of education.
And so that's about as, you know, and I know that there was never enough money. It's like everything, I realized just how much things cost, and we never had any money. I mean, my mom had to scrape, you know, all the time, and she talked about the days when they were on food ration stuff. And then when I come along, it wasn't that, but it was just no money. There was no, you know, and it was rough. But also, when things are like that, you grow to know that whatever comes, you're gonna get through it because you survived this first thing, and you learn how to cope, you know, and just, you know. So
do you remember as a child, do you remember having to relocate or losing anything through hurricanes during the years? Like, did you ever have to rebuild the home or?
No, would you believe I never was in any hurricane that damaged our house or do anything that I can ever recall at all, except when I was in after I was married, and my husband was stationed with the Coast Guard in Grand Isle at Betsy in 1965, I believe it was. She wiped out Grand Isle, and we had a trailer there, and it just blew it up like a matchbox. I mean, whatever we had in there, it was all totally gone. That's the way it does. But other than that, I don't recall at home having gone through hurricanes. Now, my mom and them talk about the hurricanes when they lived further down what's Dulac now. They used to live way out there. Bayou La Billiot had a community of our people. It's like an offshoot of the mainland of Dulac, you know, little community would build out way out there. Different bayous have them. And I think we were living at Bayou La Cid. I can't be sure, but it's something like that. And seems like it was a hurricane of 2009, maybe. Or anyway, she was young and she had all these babies around her legs, and a hurricane came and came along, and she was by herself at the house. And those houses back in those days was just little shacky building that, you know, barely you could just blow and it'll fall over. But anyway, it was getting bad, and I tell that in my family story. My brothers and sisters told me this. So Mom she gathered her babies around her, and there was a corn crib, I think is what they called it, a corn crib. I'm sure that's what they called it. Something about where they used to store corn, and it was a little bit more solid than her house. And she got in there, and she got on her knees and prayed, and then she gathered, you know, she had her little children around her and all, and that's where she said that they suffered, they passed a hurricane, and they had lost quite a bit of their stuff. And this is the thing, every time they were out there and a bad hurricane come, they lost a lot, but they didn't have a whole lot. I mean, it's kind of crazy to understand, but whatever little bit they had to always start over, you know, which some people, even nowadays, when a hurricane hits several times, like the people in Lake Charles or somewhere that area.
It sounds like your mom was a woman of faith. Do you think that was something that grounded her or helped her through all of these challenging times?
Oh, yeah, I really believe that. She did. She just believed that she could keep everybody safe with her prayers, and she did. I mean, she prayed all the time. And she was raised Catholic, and everything was Catholic about her. And she always wanted me to go to church. And she saw that I did the first communion and whatever, even confirmation. But she and Dad had never been to church with me. They never took me to church. She would send me with other people, like my neighbors, you know, and we would walk to church, you know. But she always made sure I went to church. And I, you know, just did that for a long time, you know. But Dad, he didn't seem to know anything about church or praying or anything. And my mom told me it's because he was an orphan and he was pushed from a pillar to post, as they say, with the relatives, and that they didn't teach him anything about God. Like, he didn't even know God that well. But I don't know, he didn't do anything that was against the laws of God, but that I know of. And one time I had this dream, and I don't know if it's a dream or reality, but I know that it was a rainy day, and I remember that I had to get to the church, to the little chapel way down the bayou, past the community center, way out there. There was a little Catholic chapel almost to the end of the road, and I had something that I had to do, and I want to say maybe it was something like a first communion or something else that I was taking part in, and I had to be there. But the weather was just terrible. It was stormy. Ooh. So Dad decided to take me in his little boat. We put something over us, and he proceeded to go around from where we live, to go around the Coast Guard station and go on down the bayou. And when we got there, I ran in because I had to hurry up. I probably was late. And he said he was going to stay in the boat and wait for me. And there was no top on the boat or anything. He had a cover or something on his head, body. Well, when I went in and was doing my thing with being in church in the front of where they just had the mass and whatever we were supposed to be doing, I glanced back. When I turned around, I glanced to the back of the church. And when I did, my dad was sitting. I saw my dad sitting on the last pew of that church. And I recall that so well, but yet it seems like it's a dream. And then I can't even recall getting back in the boat and about getting home. I might have asked about it, or did I remember walking out of church with him he was sitting there? It's like a dream. I don't know if it's a dream. It seems so real, but I always had that all these years. I wondered if that was Dad sitting back at a church. And I never could, it's just one of those things, And that would be the only, he didn't go to the Methodist church because we used to go to the Methodist church for a little while. I did because of the activities that they offered for the kids. And my mom, she didn't go either. She didn't go to mass that I know of, but she sure was praying that rosary and on her knees, a lot. And but she sure knew a lot about Hitler.
Do you think, was that because you said your brother was serving in the war?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so she was really interested in, probably concerned about what was going on.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was, because he walked on Normandy beach, and it was very serious out there, and you could hear all of that on the radio. So that's the only thing they had was a radio all the time, because we never had a TV. So, okay, let's see.
I wonder, Miss Corine, if there are any traditions from your childhood that you've made an effort to pass down to your children. Are there any things you thought, you know what, this really gave me strength in my life, I want to make sure I pass this down to my kids too?
Mm-hmm. Tradition. Oh, let me see. Sometimes you think you're passing something down to your children, but if they're not interested in that, it doesn't catch, I know that my sons, they didn't get interested in tribal stuff. They just didn't. So Courtney, my oldest son's daughter, she's trying to get her RN degree here in December. When she was little, and I have lots of pictures of her, she would follow me, come with me to the powwows, because we had started that Calling of the Tribes powwow, the big powwow that used to be here, Thomas and I and Janie and some other. And we started out at the Grand Bois Park off of Burglar Rose Highway, and Courtney would come with me, and she would run around all over the grounds and everything. But I would make her get her a regalia made, and she would just do everything, that the children's part and all that, and get in the dance circle and all this. And she's the only one that stayed real close to that to do this. And then my youngest son's daughter, well, first their son, the oldest one, Logan, he lives in Denham Spring. He dressed out because he had little issues of what do you call it? I don't remember, but anyway, he had some little issues that we had to deal with him about. And music, is sometimes good. It doesn't matter what kind of music. It's certain something about the beat of something that comes from music that sometimes helps these people. And I noticed that he was like really moving his body, or just like he's taking in the sound of the drumming and the dancing and all for the men. So I told him, I said, Logan, you can do this. Why don't we dress you out and you go in the circle and try. And he finally said, okay. And sure enough, he already knew the steps and everything, some kind of way. And he got interested in doing that. And so he dressed out for quite a while and did that. Well, then his sister, she did the fancy dance. And she, would go to the powwows, not so much when we had them down here, but like we had several powwows around, say, Baton Rouge or somewhere in the vicinities. And she would, and those are the thing. It's not so much the powwow itself. It was the gathering of all our Indian people coming together, and they needed to take part in this, because you come for the powwow, but really and truly, you're coming together to meet your people and to know these are your people. This is your connection. It's what they say about a family reunion. Well, that's what it is. And so they got to really kind of identify with that, because they live in Baton Rouge and they don't see too much of it, not at all, I don't think right now. But I think that's what, that's what it's all about. So we started putting on, getting the powwow bigger, because from Grand Bois to here, so we worked hard on that, and the kids started taking part, and we started having groups, and I think that's what we give to our children, is to be able to, the only thing that I always thought they should have is a time for children where you actually study your history. I've been after them, or different ones, to say, they have to know their history. You have to know where you come from, and you are where you come from, in most cases. So it's, I think I maybe helped a little bit with that, but that's really not the actual core of the Homa people. The only thing I think I might have passed on is I'm always telling them about the days long time ago when, and anything I find out that I can slip in when they're here at the dinner table, that's my way of passing something down. They focus there, they talk about it, as to where if they're in another area and they're just talking and going on about something else, and you got to quieten them down to get them going. I don't do too well with the groups like that. So just kind of get it when you can. So, hello.
Yeah.
We're listening. That was really neat.
I thought everybody disappeared on me because I talk too much.
No, we're
No worries.
really enjoying this. Thank you.
I think we just had a couple more questions, and then we'll let you carry on with your Sunday, but maybe Brittany or Ida, did you want to hop in with a question?
I think Brittany wanted to ask about what family get-togethers were like when you were growing up, or
Can you
just
hear me?
community
Oh.
get-togethers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, because the family get-togethers that I always remember as a child were, like you said, a powwows is a family get-together. Ours were just a powwow without a drum because our voices were loud
Mm-hmm.
enough, you know.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know
Mm-hmm.
how were your family get-togethers, or if y'all had community get-togethers. Like sometimes a family get-together would like spread out outside, and all of a sudden became like a block party or something. Did y'all have any of that growing up?
Not exactly like that, but I tell you what we had that I loved, and when I think about it, and I'm going to put it in my family thing, they used to have like if a couple wanted to get married, they didn't advertise it in the paper, or do anything like that. The white people did that, and people that I guess lived somewhere else that of our people might have done that. But in the Dulac, they would, when they became engaged and they set their date, well, when they were ready to announce it, the little couple would get together, hold hands, and go from house to house of the people they wanted to invite. They started with their own neighbor down the street, where they lived, and they would go in and just knock at the door and tell them that this is, hey, Miss Florence, this is my boyfriend, my fiance, and we're going to get married, maid, or whatever. And we wanted to invite you and Mr. So-and-so. And, they just was so sweet and just gentle about it, And the lady said, oh, that's good. Y'all want to come in? And then sometimes they did and sometimes they didn't because they just had so much time to go from house to house. So I thought that was just so unique. Then the best thing that in my mind is the weddings. The weddings were outdoors, and they would have these long tables outside with all the gumbos and the stews and the whatever, the rabbit and the seafood, all on this table. And then they might have the wedding in the bride's to be yard, and mostly that's where it was held. Very back in the 50s, I can remember that most weddings were, a lot of them, especially the poor people in Dulac, it was outdoor weddings. And I thought one of my good friends I had pictures of her. She made the most beautiful bride, and they had theirs outdoors, and that's the last outdoors wedding I had gone to. And I thought that was so neat, and it just stayed in my mind. It was just so beautiful, and it was so different than today's weddings. And the bridesmaids would probably be, I think if I remember right, they were all in blue, but not as elaborate as today's bridesmaids dresses. And but oh my goodness, and they would walk. My brother, one of my brothers, when he got married, they lived on one side of this little bridge, and they walked, the bride and groom walked from there all the way to across. They crossed a little bridge, and maybe a half a mile to the little place that they could dance. It was like a grocery store ballroom, I guess. And all the people followed them behind him, trailing down and it was shell roads back then. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Mm-hmm.
The reception you were saying would be at like they'd kind of convert a grocery store into like a ballroom?
Oh no, not for the reception. They didn't plan it for the reception. They just decided at the wedding that after, after they ate and everything, everybody was relaxed, and to finish out the evening, let's just go dance. They had a jukebox there.
Yeah. Did for food at the weddings, was it kind of like potluck style, just different family would bring different food?
Yes. Mainly the family or the relatives,
Mhm.
They would say, "Oh, well, I'll make you a gumbo," and somebody else will say, "I'll make a jambalaya," and I'll make, this, that, and the other. And
They sound way better than weddings now.
and then there was one. Do y'all know where Faux Point is? I know Bayou Sally. Do you know where Bayou Sally is?
Mm-mm.
It's the shortcut between Chauvin and Dulac, that little
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
snaky road
Yep.
out in the marsh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there's always been just one house on that road, and it's way out there in the middle of the nowhere. Well, this cousins of mine, and they had one of the girls there that got married, and they had this weather-beaten house, and it had a long porch across the front, and they had a yard, and there's no grass there because they had the chickens, I guess, all over. And then that road was real close, and they had a big old wedding for that girl, and the table was stretched out from here to yonder with that kind of food and everything. And this was like in the middle of nowhere, and all these people came, and that's where I found out that the aunts and different ones would bring a big pot of food, stuff like that. But I just recall that being so neat. I have a nephew that's getting married here, and he's gonna have an outdoor wedding at the Robishaw's place, Brenda Robishaw's property. It
That's
makes
awesome.
for a pretty setting outside. And community family get together. As time went on, families, I think, started the family reunion started to catch on, and so I had gone to a couple of them for somebody else, and then I came home and decided, you know what? I think I'm going to have a family reunion for my family, and so I came here and I got in touch with maybe 6 people of my nieces and nephew, and we sat around the table and talked about it. And then before you know it, we had it together. And then we proceeded to have the first one was right there in Dulac itself at the VFW. And then we moved on to the next one was a bigger building because there were more wanting to come. And then we got into Bayou Blue. There was a building there that we could rent. And then it went on until we did 5 of them, and every 5 years for a while. And we ended up at the Southdown Museum. They have the pavilion there outside. That was pretty nice because we had outdoor activities plus eating, and it's all open, and restrooms and everything. So I think that people used to do that a long time ago. One of the things they used to do was to dance in people's homes, each other's home. They come Saturday night, they would clear up the living room, and everybody would dance. They'd have these old men that would have the accordion and the violins or whatever, and they would play this French music. And sometimes they'd have it outside, and the dust was flying, and it danced. They would just dance away.
That sounds like fun.
Yep. And then I know that there were picnics outdoors with Miss Hooper. I think she used to have family. She had it for the kids, but sometimes you had to go into a pasture way out down Four Point Road off of the Dulac there, right where not far from where the community center is. It's another road that goes way back there. And it was mostly pasture back then. And she would invite some of the families to go and picnic with them out there. I never liked that because I was always scared of the cows and or anything that might come out of the woods. I'm a scaredy cat about a lot of things like that.
Well, I think we just have one more question for you before we wrap up. Ida, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering who it was that you considered as like the family that was around you that you saw all the time. Because, you know, I don't know, we have such big families. I guess who was it that you saw a lot and most often, and I guess that you considered like your immediate family?
Well, the immediate family, like my mom and dad, or apart from my mom and dad.
I guess like apart from them too, because I mean, you've told me that like you were really close to Mama Rita, and I guess I kind of wondered about the like extended family and who you saw most often.
Okay. Well, I was close to my nieces that are close to my age, and Rita was close to my age, and I had two, just about all my nieces. That's, let's see, Rita, and there was two Ritas, and Rita Cruto and Rita Smith. And now that's their name, and Mary, which is May's Rita Cruto's sister, and I was always close to those that were my age. They were like more kind of like a sister, I guess. And then the guys. I didn't, I had a nephew that came to live with us, and he was close to my age, and his name was Harold, and his mom didn't want to send him, my older sister, his mom didn't want to send him to school. He'd miss a lot of school, so mom decided that he should come live with us, and boy, he was at school every day, because with my mom, that's one thing I couldn't sleep in, or I couldn't not go to school, you know. So he and I, though, we got close by sharing information and stuff. And that's, but one interesting thing that happened in regards to talking about being close to someone. When I was coming along, by the time I come along, everybody was, my sisters and brothers were already gone, married, or moved somewhere. But the one that Joe is my sister that just died not too long ago, and she lived in Illinois. She's the one that worked in the shipyards, and then met her husband there. He was in the service, and then she moved on to end up living in Illinois for all these years. Well, I was very young. That was during the war. And when she would come home, like just every 5 years, it was like she was a total stranger and I didn't know her. And she and I, as time went on, had to get reacquainted. It just seemed like we were strangers. And then we had to know each other as sisters. And at first it didn't work too good, especially when I was in my 20s or so. And then it seemed like she just thought that she could, there was so many things she knew better than me, and this, that, and the other. And you know, the younger sister don't like to be told directly that all this that you're doing is wrong, and she's right. So anyway, we had to learn to our whole ideas about life was so different. And then as time went on, we finally started, she started getting older and I started maturing, I guess. And we came together after, but she's the only sister that I just wasn't close to for a long, long time. And then I had never lived in the same house with her, to tell you the truth. And then when she started coming after she was older, we bonded. And I'm telling you, by the time she died, we were best friends, you know. And it was the strangest thing because she really was a stranger to me at first. I felt like it. And I don't know, it's large families are really something. But most of my nieces and nephews, I love them dearly. Every one of them. They're just, you know, always pretty close.
Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
And one last question to squeeze in.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I have one last question. This is making me think, do you have any memories of your grandparents?
I never did meet my grandparents. They died long before I come along. I hear about my dad's, I hear stories about my mom's parents, and my dad, I heard a little bit about them. My dad's, when it's supposedly his wife died and he was left, I don't think there was any other children but my dad. And so this lady, after a time, moved in and she kind of became the grandmother, I guess, for those that were there. I hear that. And my oldest brother says that she was a good person, and you know, she really looked out for them when need be. But I had never, they were gone by the time I come along. And then my mom's dad, I didn't know him. I just hear about this, and I know I know her brothers, but I don't know my grandparents, not really. And I have bits and pieces of a story about them. I know like where the great grandfather came from, you know, like he came over from France, and he first he married a woman in France, then she died and he married her sister, and then he came over here, and after a time married a Indian lady, and that's how down the ways my mom got here. So that kind of stuff. In fact, I got a picture of him. Somebody gave me a picture of him. Isidore Dutu. And I'm still trying to get the full story on my dad because he was an orphan. Nobody seems that's where it stops. He was an orphan. We don't know anything about him. And so I'm trying to get somebody that will do the family tree for me and or help me with it. I haven't been able to get on the computer lately because I have the tremors and my fingers are curling a little bit from that arthritis. So I have to find where my dad came from. Now, I had a nephew's wife that told me she did research, and he too came from, I know everybody came from somewhere, the old people. And she didn't complete the study. But anyway, but I don't know anything on them. I sure wish I did. And I'm going to keep digging until I find, I'm going to keep plugging away here. And but let's see.
Well, thank you so
think-
much for your time today, Miss Corine. We really appreciate you helping us, you
Well,
walking us through this adventure in your life, all the things you've been through, and
Yeah.
telling your
you
story.
girls are something. Oh, y'all are so good. Everybody's just, y'all are, I
We
think
can't
that's
wait.
a great
We can't wait
thing.
until we can have coffee with you someday and have these conversations in person.
I certainly
Yeah.
hope so.
Yeah.
You have to come here as all of y'all together, and we'll have so much fun.
Yeah.
We'll eat and drink something, coffee, and just really enjoy chatting.
Yeah.
As soon as you said eat, everyone's smile got really big.
Especially this summer, I think it's to get outdoors a little bit, or to just do anything. Like me and my grandchildren get on the carport over there, and I fix a picnic lunch, and we. But yeah, whenever you come here, we're gonna have a good lunch. That's what we're gonna have here at my house. Mm-hmm.
That sounds
And,
good.
So yeah, and then we can talk about anything and everything, and up the bayou and down the bayou and across the bayou.
We can make it a potluck, just like the old days.
Yeah.
There you go. Now I'm
Maybe
telling
when-
you,
Maybe when you
eat a
arrange
lot,
Colleen,
huh?
maybe when you arrange Colleen's marriage with this guy.
That's right. That's right. Oh, I gotta get back on that. Listen, y'all, I got me a little puppy.
Oh,
The mama is Pomeranian. My children seem to think that every older person should have a dog. Well, I used to have dogs when they were little, but I got away from dogs, and now it's kind of an adjustment because this is a tiny little thing. And her mother's Pomeranian, but I don't know what the daddy is. But she's healthy as all get out, and I'm taking good care of her. I got to go to the vet next week, and she's so cute. I call her Petite. Petite is small.
Yeah,
Small.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what my grandma.
Uh-huh.
That's what Anna Parfait used to always call me.
Oh,
Yeah, we used to
really?
have a dog
Yeah.
named Tishan.
Ah, so I'm getting readjusted to a dog here, and let's see if it works. But anyway,
How long have you
we'll
had the
make it.
dog? When did you get him?
Just a week, I think. I think it's about a week.
They're fun little. They're fun little companions.
Yeah, that's what they tell me. We'll see. And I forget that I'm so used to just leaving the house and not have
Yeah.
to worry about anything left here,
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so that's the thing I have to remember. There's somebody here,
Yeah.
someone here
Otherwise,
to-
they can leave you some little gifts at the house that you may not want to come home to.
Mm.
So my granddaughter's teaching me how to take care of her. So
Oh.
we'll see. We'll see.
Well, so good
Okay,
talking
girlies.
with you.
Okay, and listen, Haley,
Mhm.
I get a beautiful magazine from the Native American Museum.
Mhm.
I went ahead and get, I send them a little donation, and they, send me
Oh,
this
nice.
beautiful magazine. And I got one for one of my other veterans. And along that line, just real quick, we have a committee started that the chief's wife is part of, and we're going to do a veterans get together thing for our people. I guess November or Veterans Day, come November.
Oh, really? Okay.
So mhm.
Do you guys know where it's
So-
going to be?
It's going to be the Veterans Day in November.
Oh.
I don't remember.
Do you know
It's-
where? Is it going to be in Homa or
Yeah,
Dulac?
in Homa.
Okay.
Mhm, in Homa.
Is it going to be at the air base?
So-
do you know?
I think I don't know yet. We don't know the place yet. We just know it's going to be in Homa.
Okay.
I don't know. And you'll get more on that as time goes on.
Yeah. Let me
Okay.
know. Love to go. Maybe that's when we can go down.
That would
Are
be a
you a
cool trip
veteran?
we can plan for maybe.
No.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't be invited, but yeah. Good point.
So, okay. Well, you girls have a
We could help
wonderful
serve
rest of the
food or
day.
something.
Yeah, we can volunteer. Yeah.
You girls have a wonderful rest of the day.
You too.
All right. You too, Miss
We'll
Thank
talk to you
you.
soon.
Bye, Miss
All right.
Corine.
Okay.
Bye.
Love you,
All right.
Corine.
Bye-bye,
Bye.
girls.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Ida. Bye, everybody.
Bye.